I remember Dad used to take us up into the mountains where he'd find fossils and seashells. We used to camp once a year or so before the logistics of the large family took over. And one of those trips he and I went bow hunting. To this day, I say I've been deer hunting with a bow, but in reality I might have only been 8 years old and I didn't do much more than fetch his arrows. On one of those nights around the campfire, he taught me the trick of boiling water in a paper cup. It was one of those things I passed down to my kids. It's where you put water in a paper cup, set it on like a barbecue grill on a campfire, and it'll boil before it drips out.
Whenever Dad would pick us up on good snowy winter days, he would pile us in the car, take us to the nearest mall or school parking lot, and we would do brodies in the snow, laughing hysterically the whole time. We were always asking if there was enough snow on the ground to do the brodies. It was one of our favorite things to do in the winter. And in the summertime, Dad would pick us up in his red convertible, take us up to Capitol Hill, where we would race up and down the hills. I loved the feeling of my tummy rising in the air as we were going up over the hills. My favorite summer thing to do with Dad.
My favorite memories with Grandpa were always the big family breakfast. He always made the best pancakes. I also loved how, no matter how long it had been since I had seen him last, I always felt loved, and he always took the time to take an interest in what I'd been doing. And I remember the times I was able to be there for Christmas Eve. I absolutely loved listening to him read the night before Christmas.
I loved it when Grandpa would play volleyball with the family and he wouldn't let Zach or Jesse hit the ball for him.
One day, Dad picked us up. We were in the back of the van, and I was playing Army Fighters with wire nuts. I grew bored and took a piece of paper and put my arm out the window. He said if I let it go, he would stop the van. I let it go, and he stopped the van and backed up, made me get out and get the piece of paper, and then had to talk with me on why I should not litter.
Hi, it's Jen, and I just wanted to let you guys know a very special memory I have of Ed. The first time Travis brought me out to Utah to meet the whole family, we were not married yet, and I was nervous. I think Travis was nervous. And on the second day, Ed set me down in the Anne's formal living room, and it was just me and Ed. And I thought maybe he was gonna, kind of ask me questions about myself, or just about my family, and he did. His big question for me was I close to my family? What did I think of family? Was family important to me? And it was, and it is. And then he went on to tell me how special Travis was to him and what a special person Travis was. And I would say, yes, he is. And he looked me right in the eye and he said, no, he is special. And it really impressed me. I just thought it was wonderful, and it was wonderful for Travis, and I told Travis about it that night, and it meant a lot to Travis, and it meant a lot to me that I got to be part of that moment. And I just feel that Ed's love for his children, it was just so thick, it would just flow all around the room to where even us lucky spouses were swimming in it. And it was just it had a presence of its own. And I'm so glad and so lucky that I got to be a part of that. And I love you guys. Bye.
I always remember Dad when a child biffed it. He'd take their scraped hand in both of his, and he'd say, "Aw, shucks," in a growly monster kiss it better. And I always knew that if I biffed it, Dad would be there to help me pick it back up and tell me something encouraging and help me deal with my situation.
During our vacation to Key West, Florida, Penny cooked a special dinner for us, As a toast, Ed raised his glass and expressed his appreciation for me as a son-in-law.
One time at dinner it was beans, and beans give me heartburn. But you had to finish your beans to get a cornbread. I didn't finish my beans, but Grandpa gave me a cornbread anyway.
One time, on Grandpa's birthday, he got 3 big bags of candy. He let me have 1 of each. They were delicious. Another time, a year or 2 later, his cake was upside down, and he kept joking that he was 96 instead of 69. I didn't know why he wanted to be older.
One day, at a party, Grandpa Ed gave me a remote control car. It was awesome. I remember having a family meeting with Grandpa. He told us he wants us to read the scriptures. And then Grandpa made us lemon fish. It was pancakes. I remember saying hi to Grandpa and giving him a big love.
So there was a time, clear back when we was youngins. We were living in West Jordan. We were outside playing in the water, and Mom and Mother Ann were planning to soak Dad wet when he got home from work. I told Dad, so he left. I got soaked for telling Dad, and when Dad came back with his beer, he still got soaked.
Ed just got to Maria's house. He softly pushed me and said, "Hi, beautiful." I pushed him back and said hi. He stumbled a little, smiled, and gave me a big hug.
One day, Grandpa and Nana were sitting on the bed, and I walked in. When Grandpa saw me, he said, "Who's that pretty girl?" It made me feel really special inside. I will always remember that.
I love the Thanksgiving we spent at Grandpa's house. He made me laugh a lot.
Grandpa always called me beautiful when I gave him a hug.
Dad had just moved us down to Centennial Park. He had to leave for Salt Lake, and after he left his footprints in the sand. And I remember crying my eyes out and tracing his footprints with a stick. I got so mad at Jesse and Maureen for walking all over them.
I kind of stole Heather away when I talked to Ed about it. He just said, "You're welcome."
I remember sitting on Grandpa's lap, feeling comfortable and peaceful. Grandpa was teaching Brianna to play checkers. I was talking with Brianna and Grandpa. It made me feel so good to talk with Grandpa. He was my best grandpa.
I remember me and Bailey were sitting on Grandpa's lap on Christmas time.
I enjoyed Dad giving us rides on the Honda in the field behind the old Murray house. Even more, I liked how he gave us the gift of thought. It made all of us do our own research and come up with our own conclusions about how to live life and work ethics. He was strong in his beliefs, which included making sure all of his kids got their own testimony.
You could always go and talk to him about whatever. He would always listen, always make time for you. He would always say, "Come into my office." He always answered your questions. He never got mad or said, "You were wrong. I'm going to miss our long talks."
My favorite memory of Ed was when we were in Cancun for Maureen and I's wedding, and he was so nervous at our wedding because he was performing the ceremony. But once he got a hold of the microphone, he wasn't nervous anymore. He thought he was Dick Clark or something. He wouldn't stop talking after the ceremony was over and kept cracking jokes and making the whole party laugh and everything. And I think Ann even finally had to go take the mic from him because he was enjoying himself so much being on the mic. But it was a fun time, and I really treasure the time that I got to spend with him and get to know him a little better that trip in Cancun.
My favorite memory was when every Sunday after Sunday school, I would always ask Grandpa if I could help make the pancakes, and he would always let me mix the eggs or stir the batter.
I remember when Grandpa let me in the back of his truck. It was really fun and awesome.
I loved it when he took us on motorcycle rides on his old dirt bike. To this day, I love getting a ride on a motorcycle. Also, him marrying Nolan and me is very dear to my heart.
I always enjoyed having a glass of wine and a conversation with Ed. Always a great time.
One time, Grandpa went in the kitchen and he fluffed, and I said, "Oh, there's a barking tiger."
I remember talking to Dad over the phone when I lived in the creek. It was after I got done beating the shit out of a little kid, and Mom just got done beating the shit out of me. I was feeling really sad and crying, and I would call Dad and we would just talk. He always told me he loved me and wished that I wouldn't do that, which made me cry more.
One time after Sunday school, there were about 7 choices of drinks. Dad was giving a demonstration of a woman who shared herself with a lot of different guys. He then poured all the kinds of drinks into one cup. He asked, "Do you think it'll taste good?" Everyone said no, so he had Jesse try it. Jesse said, "It tastes pretty good." Dad said, "It's not supposed to taste good."
My memory with Edmund Barlow. Just after I got married, I had the opportunity to play pool with Ed. I'd played pool a lot, and so I thought I was pretty good. Well, when we went up to play, it didn't take long for Ed to clear my balls off the table in just 2 rounds. My final and most cherished memory of Ed was the day he gave me his blessing to marry Maria. It is a blessing which I'll never be able to pay him back. My life changed for the better that day forward. Thanks, Edmund.
One of my memories of Dad was in Cancun when Dad had Mom try and jump on his back, but instead they both fell into the water. And it's a good memory for me because it just goes to show me what a fun-loving guy Dad really was.
There's this time we were down in Arizona playing Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. And after Dad had already told us video games were such a waste of time, after he watched us play it for a little while, he decided he wanted to try. He even got the high score for a little while and kept playing with us. It was pretty fun. There's also this one time Dad invited the boys down to Arizona. They didn't really tell us why. It wasn't until we got down there that the other boys that already lived down there told us that we were going to go shoot guns. And then we went out for a day, the next day, and shot guns for a couple hours. It was fun.
I remember when I was younger, Dad would come home from work, sit down in his chair and say, "Okay, who's going to take my shoes off?" And all the younger kids would rush to untie and take off his shoes. After his shoes were off, we would jump onto his lap to get to the side of his lap, because whoever got the middle part didn't have a good seat, because it was like you were going to slide off his lap.
I remember always going golfing with Dad. He would always tell me his childhood memories and Navy memories. He would always ask me to come over and watch the games with him. I really enjoyed watching the games and talking about them with him.
I like when Grandpa says to me, "Goodbye, handsome. Come see us again."
I remember when I wanted Grandpa's Lion King pillowcase so bad, he gave me the whole thing.
I would pretend that I was asleep when I was little, so Dad would pick me up and put me into my bed.
I was working on a car and I needed to get it towed to the school workshop. And instead of towing me to the workshop, Dad pushed the car with his work van. And around each turn, he had to speed up and push a little bit harder with the van. And after I made it around each turn, he came around and bumped my car and got it going again.
One night, at a many nights in the creek, Mom and Dad were gone and the twins started picking on me, making me feel bad and telling me I had no friends and that I was a loser. When Mom and Dad came home, I cried to Dad that I had no friends. Dad picked me up and said, "Come here, I'll be your friend." I said, "But you're too big to be my friend." He laughed and I cried harder.
A part of Dad's personality that I loved was how Dad always greeted me with, "Hello, beautiful," or "Mornin', beautiful." I loved that I knew Dad always thought I was beautiful, made what other people think of me matter less, because I knew that my dad thought I was beautiful, just as I was. No one can replace that.
When I was younger and I did something to get myself into trouble, I remember that the worst punishment I could possibly get is the talk. Dad would sit me down and have me talk to him. He always made me feel so bad because he made me feel guilty, and he always told me that I was better than that I need to keep the peace and stay out of trouble. Now that I'm older, my favorite memory is how he told me that he is proud of me because of what a good kid I turned out to be. Also, having Dad at my wedding was one of my favorite memories, too.
My favorite memory of Dad is making me feel like I was part of the family by telling me how sweet I am, how much he appreciated my help, and teasing me in his own sarcastic ways.
I remember driving up the canyon to have Sunday school. It was really fun.
Whenever we would eat dinner and we would spill our milk in our food, we would ask for a new plate. Dad would just say, "No, just eat it. It mixes all in your belly anyway." Also, Dad walking me down the aisle at my wedding. It was very special for me.
One time I went shopping with Amy and Brianna. When we got back to the house, Brianna said, "Hi, did you miss me?" to Ed and gave him a hug. Then Amy said, "Hi, did you miss me?" and he gave her a hug. He laughed and said, "Yeah, I missed you girls." So I walked up to him and said, "Hi Ed, did you miss me?" And he busted out laughing.
So Dad says, "I could paint your toenails." I said, "Really?" "Yeah, give me a can of spray paint and I'll paint the hell out of your toes."
One day I didn't want to go to school. I locked the door and sat in my room. Dad busted the door, came in, spanked me, and told me I was going to school.
My first time backing up David's car in the driveway so I could wash it for him, I was very nervous. I was rapidly turning my head from side to side trying to see if I was going to hit something. Dad was watching me. As I turned my head, I'd get glances of his huge smile, and I could hear his deep laugh.
Dad took Ben, Kristen, Robert, Danny, Isaac, Wyatt, and me all to the Village Inn. Just all of us guys. There were no other adults, and Dad started messing around with us. He shot a plastic wrapper from a straw and hit Wyatt in the face. Ben and I kept laughing because there was one straw wrapper that made it into Dad's shirt pocket. He didn't notice it until we got home.
We were working hard on a Utah Lake job site. I sat down while shoveling, and Dad said to me, "Sitting down is for ladies and video game nerds."
I remember playing pool with Dad, and he talked about his family and growing up and memories from the Navy.
Mom was leaving and Josh wanted to play on the computer and I wanted to make noodles. Mom said no, but when we asked Dad, he said we could. Or when he let us play on the wheelchair when Mom left. Dad always let us do what Mom wouldn't.
When Dad would make pancakes, he would let me taste the batter to make sure the pancakes taste good.
My favorite memory is when we all went to Yellowstone with Dad. I liked the big house, he stayed in and how we all played together.
He brought me to the brothers' breakfast. He let me try to get a stuffed animal out of the machine. He brought me some ice cream from the Arctic Circle, and he let me play in the playground next to the store. Isaac and I played tic-tac-toe.
I'm glad you brought these memories back. I really appreciate that.